Hi, welcome to another episode of Firm Foundations Podcast with your hosts CJ and Tony. Last episode we finished up chapter 22 in Genesis, the binding of Isaac, and it was so rich, so rich. Just how it connects to other parts of the Bible and the redemptive process that God put in motion, and Christ's ministry. It was just so full. It took us 2 episodes to get through. Especially the first 5 verses were so jam-packed. Oh God, unboxing that was amazing. But now, today, we're going to look at chapter 23, and it is concerning with the death of the matriarch Sarah. And, it's going to be a easier, fun episode, maybe, in the sense that dealing with death is not necessarily that much fun, but how the survivors deal with the planning of a burial and social norms in that day and in the Middle East even today, and how certain things are negotiated. It's going to be interesting, at least to me, because I'm a nerd and I know that. But it's also going to give us another in-text proof as to the timing of when the book of Genesis, at least, was authored, and we're going to see how that plays out in relation to major mainline low faith, no faith scholars, biblical scholars. It's going to be good.
Well, I think it's amazing that even to this day, in that region, that this is still going on.
Yeah.
You know how they do things.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed in 5,000 years or 6,000 years, whatever. Whereas for us in the West, it's completely different.
Yeah.
We don't bury our dead in caves and sit there and wait for them to I'll just say to their bone.
Yeah.
And then take those bones, and you'll explain about all that. The majority are either put in coffins and put in the ground, and that's it, or they're cremated and put in jars and set on their fireplace mantles forever.
Yeah. I'm kind of hesitant about talking about my burial wishes, because they're a little, admittedly, off the rockers.
Hey, just let me know what you want and I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Which doesn't sound good, does it?
Because both my wife and my aunt said no.
Oh. Well, if it should befall that you go before me, which I don't think so. I think I'm hoping we're both resurrected before then. Or not resurrected. We're both caught up in the air.
Yeah.
But I'll try my best to complete your wishes.
Thank you.
Okay. With all that aside, chapter 23. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in
Kiryat Arba.
Kiryat Arba. Okay. That is Hebron, and I might just say that from now on. In the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her.
Interesting.
And you had talked about that. It's a little bit off because, for one thing, he came to weep for her.
Yeah.
So were they separated at the time? And I meant to ask you this, and this is another example of that things come to my brain just without us discussing it. You know, you had stated that Isaac was probably 30-ish when he was supposedly going to be sacrificed. She dies at 127, which would make him 37.
Yeah.
But it never mentions him. And, you know, wanting to see his mother or whatever. I mean, what do you know? Any type? Does any of the books that you've read from the other authors mention anything about Isaac?
No, they don't. And that's curious because later when Abraham dies, they have a whole lot to say about Ishmael and his relationship with Isaac because he actually comes to the funeral. So what's going on? But not so much about Isaac at his mother's funeral, which is interesting. And as we talk about the different scenarios, maybe we'll actually explore something about that because the first, like you said, it's a curiosity that it says, and the rabbis picked up on that, saying, where is he coming from? And in the midrashim, in the commentaries, some of the commentators, some of the sages say, look, this comes right at the heel of the binding of Isaac. So perhaps she died because she heard what was going on or heard what God had commanded Abraham, and her heart couldn't take it, and she just gave up the ghost. She just died. Maybe I should have used a more respectful language there. Maybe, that she just released her spirit. Because,
you mean like it broke her heart?
Yeah. Broke her heart, and she died of a broken heart is the idea. But then other commentators like Radak and now it's escaping me. They say, well, no, because it says when verse 19 in the previous chapter 22, it says, so Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba.
Mm-hmm.
So if Abraham's living in Beersheba, what is Sarah doing by herself in Kiryat Arba, in Hebron? She wouldn't be by herself. So the idea is that after the binding of Isaac, those who don't accept, let's say, Rashi's interpretation of, she died of a broken heart, immediately during or after the binding of Isaac, say, look, Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. That means she would have been living with him too, obviously, husband and wife. So they must have moved sometime later to Hebron. And they lived in Hebron before. They lived, because that's where the three angels, i.e. the Lord and two angels, showed up to Abraham. That's where, they said, and the Lord said, why is Sarah laughing? And she says, no, I didn't laugh. And she said, well, but you did. When I told you that you were going to have a son, you laughed. And that's where all that happened. The terebinth trees of Mamre were right outside of Hebron, Kiryat Arba. So it's not their first time living there. So, and then the idea becomes, since they live there and moved, and evidently moved back from Gerar to Beersheba to back to Kiryat.
So maybe she just stayed behind?
No, the idea is that maybe what happens is, Abraham being as rich as he is, perhaps he's setting up trade posts in the locations that he actually resides for a length of time, and then he just probably takes trips to check up on them and collect his profits from the endeavor and all that stuff, businessman stuff.
So as as a military person and yourself, he went TDY, temporary duty, to these places.
Yeah.
From his house. It's not that she was left behind or anything. It's just that he was taking care of the business, as you said.
Yeah. And because these places are not terribly far from one another, they're only a few days, maybe a couple weeks journey away from each other. So, yeah, like you said, TDY is a good way of putting it. And so perhaps he was away doing a spot inspection of one of his outposts, and when he came back, Sarah was passed on. So that explains why he came to mourn her. But another interesting thing, and look, my Hebrew is rusty. I studied biblical Hebrew 20-something years ago, so forgive me. I have to go back and read. And
while you're looking that up, so where is Isaac? Is he with Sarah?
See that's.
Do you think?
Yeah, that's.
Or is he conducting business with his father to learn more and more?
We don't have any proof.
No proof.
We don't have any textual evidence, attestation, or anything. But if I had to guess, Abraham would have wanted to train his son, teach him, show him the ropes, and then gradually
hand it off
to Isaac. So Isaac might have been in a third location. So while his father's over here, he might be over there, and he might not have heard about his mom's passing. And that's why we don't see, curiously, Isaac in this.
You had said something about someone mentioning that she may have died of a broken heart because of her son being, a possible sacrifice.
Yeah.
But if he died, or if he was a sacrifice at or around the age of Christ, which would have been right around 32 or 33, but he was 37, then she wouldn't have died from that.
Yeah.
Being broke, because she would have known that he was still alive.
Yeah.
So I kind of, not that I'm a professional or a big scholar like these other guys, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
That she would have been brokenhearted because she would have known he's still alive. He's been alive for the past 4 years, and it was just her time, in a sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's...
No disrespect, by the way, to any of the scholars out there.
I mean, I keep saying, especially with regards to the sages of Israel, I love them, I respect them, I learn a lot from them. I don't have any novel ideas of my own. Everything that I know or think I know, or every idea I have is, learned from someone. And a lot of times it's from the sages of Israel, from the rabbis we read in the Talmud, in the Mishnah and Gemara, and of course the medieval greats like Rashi, Ramban, Radak, Ibn Ezer, Abarbanel, you name them. But they are just people like us. They have a gift given to them by God, but it has its limitations. God doesn't give everybody. Let me rephrase it. God doesn't give anybody knowledge of everything so that they can boast. He wants humility. He wants people to be dependent on one another, for people to learn from one another. And we see that beautifully in the Talmud, in the Gemara, when they're going back and forth about a Mishnah, or in the Midrashim, or in the commentaries that you can pick up, Jewish commentaries. The rabbis argue amongst themselves because nobody's perfect, and they put on their pants the same way we do. So, but where I was going with that is the word translated as "weep for her." Weep is livkota, and there's something interesting going on there that I should probably bring up later on in a few verses, but I'm going to go ahead, and since we have it here, as we're going to see, there's a few times where Abraham refers to his wife's remains in what we would consider a little disrespectful terms, like saying, like, give me a place that I can, a burial spot that I can purchase from y'all, so I can bury my dead out of my sight. Well, that comes across really harsh in our minds, and probably in the minds of those people too. But in the Hebrew text, one of the letters is written small in the word weep, and anytime there's something weird going on with the font in the Bible, in the Hebrew text of the Bible, it's the scribes or the rabbis' way of saying there's something interesting here. Whether it's a letter that's written small or large, or with a crown on it, it's saying pay attention. And here, it's simply to explain those harsh spots where he says, bury my dead out of my sight. It's to say that, look, he loved, because when we first read those, we think, oh, how much did he really love her? Not much, apparently. But it's saying, no, he loved her so much that, yeah, people saw him weep, but they couldn't see his heart. He kept it hidden in himself. He was a little, what's the term we like to say? Buttoned down. He had his emotions tightly held within, and people couldn't see that. And that's why he's speaking the way he is, because he's in so much pain that he just can't bear to see his wife's remains. Anybody who's lost a loved one can attest to that it's a bit much to bear. And so that's a nice little way of reminding us of his humanity. Yeah.
Then Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead.
Okay.
So, and I verified this with you earlier, that he's fixing to purchase some land that's going to belong to him anyway, or to his descendants. Yeah. And he's calling himself a foreigner. But there's a reason for all this, and you were explaining it to me.
Yeah. So actually, there's something kind of an important tidbit that I forgot to mention in.
Oh, good, because I like to hear new stuff.
Well, we already talked about this.
Oh, okay.
But off camera, so for the viewers' benefit, there's an interesting thing about Kiryat Arba. If you notice in verse 2, when it says, "So Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron." That is Hebron is a scribal gloss, or a kind of like a footnote, or a in some Bibles you have the column in the middle with little notes, or at the bottom, whatever. And what it's doing is, the scribe's intention when he put that there was to remind people of where they're talking about, meaning that it had been some time that people had been calling this place Hebron, that they forgot the older name. Throughout history, names change. Most famous, one of my favorite songs is Istanbul, pa Constantinople, Istanbul. It's Istanbul, not Constantinople anymore. Because, it used to be called Constantinople or Byzantium, and then the Ottomans conquered it and changed its name to Istanbul. Well, the same thing happened at Kiryat Arba. Kiryat Arba is the ancient name of the city. And there's several different explanations for the name. Some say it's because it was named after a man called Arba. And it's interesting because Arba both is a name and it means the number 4. So some say that it's named after the man named Arba, who was the ancestor of one of the ancestors of the people, the Anakim, the Anakites. Some think that it's because it's named after Anak and his 3 sons, so it goes even further back. And some think, of course, this understanding would have come later on after the conquest, and I think it's a misguided. This next one is kind of it's an interesting coincidence, and God doesn't make coincidences, but life does sometimes. But they say, oh, see, it's 4. It's the town of 4. It's because it was named after the 4 highly significant couples that would be buried there over time. Who are the couples? And we talked about this in a couple previous episodes. Abraham and Sarah are buried in Kiryat Arba. Then we have Isaac and Rebekah, and then we have Jacob and Leah buried there. Well, who's the 4th couple? The traditional belief is that Adam and Eve are buried there also, in the same cave. Don't know the veracity of it, but it's something that's believed. If you go there today, you can still go there. It's beautified. It's built up. You don't even notice it's a cave because it looks like a building from the outside. But there are multiple tombs there that are labeled, and you can still go and see where Abraham and Sarah are buried, where Isaac and Jacob and their wives were buried. I'm not sure if you can see where Adam and Eve is buried there, but if that's the case,
well, should have their names backwards.
I know, right? But so why am I talking about this so much? Because there's so many little tidbits in the Old Testament, especially, that are meant by the author or by the scribe to help people understand one thing, but actually has a second agenda that is for us in this time today. And this is one of those things, because when we locate the let's run it through like this. So today, biblical scholars that are not men of faith or women of faith, equal opportunity, right? They'll say, "Oh, Moses never existed. He's just a mythological character," and the books that are said to be written by him were actually written in the 6th century before Christ. But, they weren't really written way back when we would expect them to be written in the, late 15th, early 14th century. Well, actually, yeah. But this little clue here helps us locate the original writing of at least Genesis in the 14th, early 14th, late 15th century, or late 15th century more likely, because if the name, as events seem to suggest, was changed from Kiryat Arba to Hebron, from the Canaanite name to the Hebrew name after the conquest, we see this in our lifetime all over the place, in places like Turkey, even here in the U.S. I'm sure there's other places all around the world where names change, like Russia is famous for changing city names, right? Mm-hmm. Leningrad, Stalingrad, they get changed their names. One becomes, I don't even remember, Kaliningrad and whatever. And what happens is, the first generation that conquered the land, well, they know the name, the ancient name of the place, and they'll remember it for their lives, especially those that live there, even though they refer to it in the new name most of the time. The second generation will always refer to that place with the new name, but they'll more or less be aware of the ancient name. The third generation, more likely than not, doesn't remember anything about the previous name. All they have ever known, is the new name, and they have no reason to ever refer to the old name, because everybody else that's ever going to talk about that city is going to be talking about it using the new name. Mm-hmm. So third generation is probably when scribes would have had to say Kiryat Arba, which is Hebron, meaning, I'm talking about Kiryat Arba. Well, the original author of this book wrote Kiryat Arba, but for those of you who do not remember the old name of this place, the new name, the name that you'll be familiar with, is Hebron. So it serves to bring clarity, and it also lets us know that, hey, 3 generations, let's say 60 to 100 years after the conquest, people needed this reminder. And so this is it gives us a latest and an earliest potential time in which this book of the Bible could have been written. So if the scribe wrote this, okay, so if it had been more than 3 generations, even the scribes could have forgotten the original name of the place, because, word of mouth lasts only so long. And if you write it down, tablets break, parchments disintegrate or burn, decompose. That's why we have so many or so few manuscripts, biblical manuscripts, or any other manuscript from any other ancient author. There's a reason why there's only so few of them. Time destroys everything. So if it was much later, the scribes would have also forgotten, and then they wouldn't have been able to write this footnote in. If it was earlier, they wouldn't have needed it because everybody would have still been familiar with it. So we can safely assume that between 60 and 100 years after the conquest is when the scribe is making this notation, which means the original work would have been written. Okay, and when was the conquest? Circa 1400 BC. Let's say 1406 to be more precise, most likely. That means the scribal notation would have been made somewhere around 1300s BC, which says that, this book was written before 1400, which is exactly when we would expect it to be written, because that's when Moses was taking Israel through the wilderness. And that by giving us this little hint, God is telling us about when this book was written. So scholars can have all their assumptions, because that's another thing. When scholars make comments like these, that, it was written in the 6th century BC, it's not older than that, Moses really didn't exist. It's not from archaeological evidence that they're saying that. It's from assumptions. They assume that God doesn't exist. Therefore, they assume that Moses is just a myth. Therefore, they assume, this book was only written really by scribes and, priestly caste to solidify and perpetrate their power. So it becomes a power politics thing where, again, thank you, communism, for your bovine excrement that permeates everything from gender relations to politics to everything. God, it's such an evil. I'm going to boil over again. I need to calm down. So because of their assumptions, it's why that they're saying that the Bible isn't as old as it is. Well, I don't care about your assumptions. I care about the facts. And the facts, I keep saying this, but the last 4 or 5 or so decades of archaeological research has completely destroyed 2 centuries almost of German theological scholarship. It's because of this, because they've based it on assumptions instead of facts. But I digress. I'm just saying, thank you, Lord, for providing these little tidbits, these little clues that we can pick up on and ground our faith in actual anthropological, archaeological findings and historical knowledge. But going back to the what we were talking about, the verse 5, 6, burial. I think I'm going to hold off about actually talking about. Well, maybe I should. It's so hard to know exactly where to put some comments, because some comments you need to know before you start talking about everything else.
To have a
But you,
a brief understanding of what's gonna happen.
yeah, but you don't really see where that comment is coming from till further on down. So it's like, do you put it at the beginning? Do you put it at the end? Do you put it in the middle? And this is how the sausage is made. We don't have a script. I mean, I have my study notes. That's it. I didn't put it into a nicely organized narrative so I can just read off of from a teleprompter and, you know, whatever, and neither do you.
Well, here's a little brief break just to. You kept on talking about how they're assuming and they're assuming. And you know what assuming does to you, right? Makes you
Yeah.
a donkey.
That's
to put it nicely.
That's a nice way to put it. Yeah. Okay. So, going back to the topic at hand, right? The first thing I want to pick up on is in verse 6, where it says, "You are a mighty prince among us."
Mm-hmm.
That is not what the Hebrew says. The text of the Hebrew is quite different. And I need to go back to verse 3 and 4, for a second. I forgot that. And that's why I have notes. But so let's backtrack a little bit. Verse 3 and 4, let's look at 4, where it says, "I am a foreigner and a visitor among you." Again, that's not exactly what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew is ger toshav. It's 2 words. Ger means a resident alien, non-permanent, kind of like a day laborer, kind of like in today's terminology, a migrant worker, right? Somebody who comes for a certain amount of time and then leaves. Having said that, you know, ger today has a different connotation, completely different connotation in Hebrew. It means a convert, somebody who converts to Judaism is called a ger. But in that time period, it meant someone who's a sojourner, who is a migrant worker, somebody that comes, settles for a little bit, and then leaves. Toshav means somebody who is a dweller or a permanent resident. And what Abraham is saying when he says, "I am a permanent, transient alien," is saying, you know, you've opened your arms to me, you've allowed me to live amongst you. I'm not one of you, I'm a foreigner, but I have made this my permanent residence. Even though I travel, I go around, this is where I come back to time and again. But I recognize that y'all are the natives. You are the head honchos of this. The people that he's talking to are the leaders of this city. And he's showing them respect. And this is where he begins he's setting it up for the coming negotiations for a burial plot. And, you know, here in the West, we just go up to a person, "Hey, is this land for sale? How much you want for it? Here, done." You know, but in the Middle East, even to this day, business is a dance. It's choreographed to some degree, where you say, "Oh, I really like this," and the person who's selling it says, "Oh, really? Well, you can have it. Here, have it." And then you say, "Well, how much would you like for it?" And then he says, "Oh, just take it. It's nothing." You say, No, I got to pay for it. You know, you have to earn a living. I got to give you something." He says, "Well, you know, it's really $15, but, you know, I'll give it to you for 10. What's $10 amongst friends? You know, we're friends now." And like, I don't know you from Adam. What are you talking about? We're friends. But whatever. That's, we don't say that. Instead, we say, oh, $10. Oh, that's good. Here's your $10. Thank you very much. This is beautiful. It's going to make a beautiful present for my wife or my husband or my child or whatever. It's beautiful. It's going to look beautiful on the mantle. Oh, it's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's, well, I would have paid $30 for this, but thank you for, you gave me such a great deal. And I grew up overseas, but I could never get used to it. I mean,
I went to Egypt
Yeah.
back in '91, and
yeah,
had a chance to go out. We were in Cairo, and had a driver. It took us to different places to buy gifts. Yeah, and I'm used to going to the store. It says $15. You pay $15. That's all there is to it.
yeah,
Plus tax. But when I was there, I was buying some perfume bottles, because they have some real nice ones there. Or perfume, which isn't perfume that you buy here. This is the extract, is it called? It's pure, and it's not diluted at the time. But the guy was saying like, "Hey, this is $10." Like, okay, I'm giving him $10 in Egyptian money or whatever it was. He's like, no. He started like, no, you need to barter with me. I was like, what? I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, you give me a price that you want to pay, and I tell you if I want that much or if I want more. You go back and forth. We barter. I'm like, okay, and I tell him a price, and we end up going in between,
yeah.
And it was kind of fun. I never got the concept. Every time I went to the different places, like I just wanted to buy it.
Yeah, man, like it's crazy. Like I said, grew up over there. I was born here, grew up over there, but I never could get used to it. I mean, now looking back, and I've never been tested, never been verified, diagnosed, but I think I'm on the spectrum somewhere, and I think that's part of the spectrum where I don't always pick up on social cues and things until like forever later. And I could never understand, like, what the heck is going on? What is this nonsense? Like, how much is it? Tell me. Black and white. I like black and white. You give me a price, I'm going to pay it to you. If it's too much, I'm just going to walk out. And then you can beg me to stay and say, oh, no, come back.
My wife would have been perfect over there, because she likes to do that kind of trading. It's like,
yeah, but as we read this chapter, that's this whole chapter. It's a crash course in how to haggle.
Haggle? Yeah, there you go, haggle. Like
how business, art of the deal, Egypt style. I mean, Abraham style.
Abraham style.
But yeah, so he's setting up for that in verse 4, and then he goes, "Give me property for a burial place among you, that I might bury my dead." And then verse 6, it says, "Hear us, my Lord, you are a mighty prince among us." And that's where I was first going to make this observation, that the Hebrew doesn't say that. The Hebrew is Nasi Elohim, meaning a prince of God. And that's a technical term used for somebody with spiritual authority. In this case, they're acknowledging, since he lived there before, they know him. They've watched God dealing with Abraham and things, so they know that he's a prophet, and they're paying him the respect. The pleasantries part of the whole negotiation tactic. Well, this is their part, where he was humbling himself. Now they're going to elevate him saying, yes, you are a prophet, you are a Nasi Elohim, you are, and that's all a term that is similar to B'nai Elohim, sons of God. And as we've seen in chapter 6, way back when, that is a term specifically used in the Old Testament for angelic beings, divine beings, not for normal humans. It's not, and this is also, they're basically saying that you are spiritually on the same level as angelic beings. High praise. But it's both the truth that they recognize it, and it's also, the dance to further along their agenda of making this transaction go through. Okay, so I'm going to save the rest of the burial details for when we get there.
Now, this may be thinking wrong, but you talk about they're exalting him in a sense. Is that a coy way of manipulation?
Oh, without a doubt.
Of, you're this, so we're going to want more.
It could be, yeah. Yeah, it could be.
I'm not trying to put words in their mouth or anything, but, you see that in society today. Somebody will lift you up, but they have a motive behind it.
Yeah, because it's like saying, oh, you're such a great man. A man of this stature needs such a great thing. So, of course, that thing has a higher price. Mm-hmm. It all ties in. It's all part of the art of the deal. Trump could learn something from him. Like, he's known for the art of the deal, but he ain't never done a deal like this.
All right, we are verse 7. Then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, if it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at a full price. So he's not wanting to rip him off. Mm-hmm. As property for a burial place among you.
So, yeah.
So now we're going back to Zohar.
Different Zohar.
Right. The son of Ephraim.
Yeah.
Which is you said he was a Hittite?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay. I remembered something.
I mean, it's gonna say
he's also a foreigner.
Yeah.
In this land, right? Because these are Philistines, correct?
Canaanites.
Canaanites. My bad. These are Canaanites. So this Hittite is a foreigner, just like Abraham.
Yeah.
But he's already purchased this land from them.
Yeah.
Whenever that was.
Yeah.
So naturally, like any other land that you buy, normally the price goes up depending on how long it's been, and also the desire that somebody has for it.
Yeah.
Like if you've got an acre that has nothing but just rocky land on it, and you paid, to make it simple, $100, and then somebody else comes up and says, hey, I'd really like that land. Well, because you know that they're really wanting, you could double your price or triple it, whatever, because you know that they are in need of the land for something, apparently, because they're really wanting it. And, so here I think we got kind of the same situation.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Like there's that, but first of all, verse 7 is a topic of debate in Jewish circles, right? Because it says Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, and they're like, a Jew does not bow down to anybody but God. So what's going on here? And they're saying, oh, he's just bowing his head as a sign of respect and appreciation. And they still do that in the Middle East and in Turkey, where, you know, like in Turkey, if you say something nice to somebody, you know, or say something nice about a deceased person or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or if you like the plan, or if you appreciate what somebody's done for you, you can do Eyvallah.
Well,
By God. You know, that's thank you. It's like saying thank you. And this bowing motion is what I see Abraham doing here.
let me interject this. Abraham's not a Jew at this, you know, it's not the way I see things, okay?
Uh-huh.
Isaac, okay, Israel is, you know, he becomes Israel,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Jacob.
So you don't have the known Jewish people until that happens, in a sense, because it's all building up to it, and they can look back now that yeah he was a Jewish person, but the practices of the Jewish time was not set. You know, so there wasn't that so-called rule as far as Jews don't bow to anybody. Well, he wasn't really considered a Jew until later.
Well, that depends on the meaning of Jew.
I don't know if
Right.
I'm making myself understood here, but
Well, okay, instead of Jew, let's use the word Hebrew. Now, modern scholarship thinks that Hebrew comes from ancient Semitic word Habiru, meaning nomads. And that could be part of it. But the word Hebrew in Hebrew is Ivrit, if you're speaking of the language. And it means someone who stands on the other side. And the connotation is Abraham draw this line spiritually.
mm-hmm.
Y'all are over there in the pagan world. I'm over here on God's side. And this line I do not cross. So in that sense, he is the first Hebrew.
Okay.
So the first Jew. So, of course, Jew, the word Jew comes from Yehuda, which is one of the sons of Jacob, one of the sons of Israel. And so you can't really say he's the first Jew, but in the spiritual meaning, he's
Exactly.
the first Jew.
But you know,
But yeah, nobody in his time would have called him a Jew because the
Right.
word Jew didn't exist.
and normally bowing to somebody isn't. He wouldn't have been disrespecting God by bowing to that person because it was respect. Out of respect. It's like when you always see people in China always bowing to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's a custom. So if I were to go there, to be respectful and not to disrespect any of my beliefs, I would bow because that was their custom.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that at this time, in this geography, bowing down is a active form of worship.
Was he bowing like Chinese do, or was he down on his hands and knees in a bowed position?
And that's the discussion. Right?
So I'm thinking that he's just bowing. You know,
Yeah.
hey,
Like I said, I think he's just doing this.
uh-huh.
Hey, well,
Okay,
you know, thank you. But so I agree with you on that case. But you know, I was just bringing up the mindset of the earlier commentators and like something that they saw that was rubbing them the wrong way and how they were dealing with it.
Okay.
Yeah. But where was I going with that? Oh, and I forgot again. So we're talking about power politics, right? And we're talking about the art of the deal. like you said, and we're going to see this in verse 10, so next verse, but Ephron was a Hittite. So he's also, like you said, a resident alien, a Ger Toshav. And this is important because in verse 6, the leaders of the city, the sheikhs in today's Middle Eastern language, the princelings, the big chiefs say, bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead. They're saying, yeah. By saying that he was a Nasi Elohim, that he was a prince of God, that he was a prophet, it's also saying, you're really one of us. None of us are going to keep anything from you. Ask, and it shall be given. Take one of our places. You're a man of great esteem. You should have one of our burial places. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. They are the resident families. They're the natives. Their families have been there for generations. That means their burial plots, because they don't have cemeteries like we have today. They have family burial plots. Everybody owns their own plot. Everybody, has either a cave or a man-made some kind of a structure on their property for this purpose, and it's used generation after generation after generation. What does that mean? Well, if Abraham buys one of their plots, there's already bones in there. And here's how burial practices work. And I couldn't find any. Let me rephrase that. I didn't have the time to actually go and look for archaeological studies on Canaanite burial practices at that time, but we know that Jewish burial practices are related to burial practices in that time. So looking at that, I'm making the assumption, and that might make a donkey out of me, but it's an educated guess with better than 50% probability that there's parallels. And here's the rub. In ancient Israel, the cave would have had a bench carved out of the rock, and there would be under the bench there would be a hole, kind of like a room dug out. And what would happen is they'd bring the dead, they'd wash the dead, purify the dead, they'd rub ointments and salves on them made from various
herbs.
Thank you. Herbs that would both help mask the scent of death and attract insect activity, so that the bugs would do their thing and decompose the body. And on the yahrzeit, on the anniversary of the deceased passing, they'd go back and the bones would be picked clean, and they'd collect the bones and put them in what's called an ossuary box, and that reminds me, a while ago they found a box. I don't know if you heard of this. They found a box in Israel from the 1st century AD that was very interesting, because it said, James, the son of Joseph, the brother of Yeshua, the brother of Jesus.
I've seen something like that.
Now, Yeshua is a very common name. Joseph is a very common name. James is a common name. Yaakov. So it's not necessarily
that particular
one, but what are the likelihood that all three names are mentioned in the appropriate order?
Mm-hmm.
And why would they put the brother of if the brother that he's the brother of was not famous, right? But that box, the ossuary box, is what they'd put the bones in, and then they'd take that box and put it in the little room that they dug out under the bench. And that would be the final resting place for those remains. So here's the problem. If Abraham buys one of their lots, or as the discussion seems to suggest, they allow him to use it, that place already has ossuaries in it. They already have bones in it. What do you do with those bones? Do you leave them in place? You can't move the dead. That's disrespectful. So whose burial place does this become? Theirs or his? Because what if people from his descendants, somebody from his descendants, and somebody from their descendants die at the same time? Who's going to use the bench? There's so many things going on. So it's a ruse. It's never going to happen. It wasn't the case. But they're saying, you deserve a great place to bury your dead, a man of great stature. And Sarah was a woman of great stature. She was an amazing person. God rest her soul. May her memory be a blessing. It's you're choosing. You're picking. Where would you like to bury her? It's furthering the negotiations. And he goes, go talk to Ephron for me if I found favor in your eyes. So he's saying, look, I can't take them up on their surface level offer, mm-hmm. because it would cause trouble. I don't want to disrespect them by taking them up on this offer and causing all this trouble, because it would be a problem for me and Isaac after me. And, it's just him. He has no brothers to protect him. It's just him. What's going to happen if I do something so outrageous? So he goes, who is there? Well, I don't want to disrespect anybody in the town either, because who knows who has whose ear and what could happen from it. I could cause a popular uprising against me or Isaac. So let's avoid that. Ephron here is like me. He has no power base here. He's not one of the natives. So, and the word in Hebrew is it means to intercede. Would you intercede for me? Would you go and talk to him? Because guess what? I'm a resident alien. He's a resident alien. I have no power over him. I can't tell him. I can't force him to do anything. I can't twist his arms. I have no leverage. But guess what? Y'all are the leaders of this city. He has to listen to you. So if I find favor in your eyes, do me a favor and go talk to him. You twist his arm, because he has to listen to y'all, mm-hmm. because he has the same concerns that I have. He came here for the business. He came here to make some money, earn a living. He doesn't want to shake that up, so he's gonna go along with the go along. Yeah. So I think this is the perfect spot to take a little intermission and say, or ask y'all for a favor. If we've found favor in your eyes, if what we are doing is a blessing to you, if you think what we do could be a blessing to someone else, if you want to partner with us in learning the Bible and preaching the gospel to the nations, please take a second to like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, please. And to increase YouTube's likelihood of pushing this video in front of other people, write a comment. Tell us your thoughts. Not only for that, but also because we want to, if we are saying anything wrong, in your opinion, if the Lord has given you another insight, we would like to learn from you. We don't know everything. We're definitely not perfect individuals with perfect photographic memory. And even if we do, we're learning from other people who put their pants on just like we do, so they're not perfect either. So, we are open to learning from you. We want this to be a dialogue between us and you. So please put it in the commentary if you think there's some other revelation that the Lord has given you regarding anything we're discussing. If you think we're wrong, correct us. If you think we're doing a good job, just give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions, there's no silly question. There's just good questions that answer somebody's curiosity. So, put them in the comments. If you have a prayer request, you can put it in the comments, or you could send us an email if you want it to be private. We would be glad to pray for you. You can email us at support@firmfoundationspodcast.com. It's simple. And then, if you don't mind sharing it so that, reposting it so that we can get other people to see and learn with us. And maybe there's someone who's never heard the gospel, and this will be the first time that they hear the gospel. Maybe, it's someone who's struggling with studying the Bible, who doesn't know where to start, how to start. Give them a chance. We could be their study buddies on their way to work, at work, if they have a job that'll allow them to listen. Maybe it's a busy student and, they don't have a whole lot of time, but they really want to learn more about the Lord, so they can listen to this on 2x the speed and hopefully make sense of it. We really speak at a slower cadence, unlike some content creators, so it really lends itself to be played at 2x or 2.5x even. So if you don't have time, even though this video might be an hour and a half long, you can condense it into half an hour, 45 minutes. It's not that bad. And honestly, it's the best free learning tool that you can get. Well, not the best, one of the better ones. Let's put it like that. Let's have a little humility. But yeah. Beyond that, would you like to share?
Oh, yeah, sure. We're always interested in hearing from you, and one of the ways that we would like to hear from you is by you sending us a T-shirt from your church or a hat. My T-shirt is large, his is XXX.
Chunky boy here.
And we'd like to advertise for you for free. We will wear it. That's a guarantee, and we may wear it more than one time, maybe a dozen times, who knows. But just send us the T-shirt to Firm Foundations, Box 121, Cullman, Alabama, 35056. The only cost to you is mailing it to us. We're not asking for any money. We never do. This is free. And everybody likes free because it's a good price.
Yeah, wherever you are in the world, we have people that watch from there. Even though our long form videos are just now starting to slowly gain traction, our shorts go out around the world. Some of them have over 1,000 views. Some of them have 9,000 views, 45,000 views. We have one that has had over 45,000 views. And we have people from all over the world watch. So if you're in a location where you can safely share the location of your church, and contact information. We want to do that. We want to, that's another part of this service. I try not to use the term ministry, because we haven't set this up as a ministry. We set it up as a limited liability company for legal reasons, because we don't want to deal with the 501c nonsense with the IRS and have them muzzle us and prevent us from saying some things that we might want to say from time to time, and have them meddling with us. The government needs to know its place, and we need to do what we need to do to keep them out of our private spaces. But even though it's a company, as you'll notice, we haven't sold anything. We're not advertising anything. Even though we have some stuff, you can check at our website if you want to support us. But we're keeping everything as low overhead as possible, so that we don't have to rely on income. Sure, we would like to hire a cameraman, editor, stuff like that. We would like to. There's stuff that we would like to do, but we figure if the Lord wants that to happen, He will provide somehow, either through, spontaneously putting it on your heart. And again, we don't take donations, so it would be, you can look at our website for that. But we don't really advertise any of that normally, because we're not in it for the money. But we are here for serving the Lord and serving you. And part of that is, beyond the Bible study, is getting the gospel in front of people and providing people a way of connecting with the body of Christ wherever they are. So if you're in India and you feel safe to share your location and contact information, depending on the video, up to 49, almost 50, almost half of our views come from India, from many different provinces, many different states, I guess you could call them, in India. We have viewers from Japan, we have viewers from the Emirates, we have viewers from Turkey, we have viewers from Israel, we have viewers from the Netherlands, from Britain, from Canada to Australia to New Zealand to, you name it. We've probably got at least a few people viewing these videos, especially the shorts there. So if you are in a safe place, I'm stressing that out, because I know that if you're living in Iran, it's a problem. I get it. If you live in certain parts of Turkey, it's a problem. I get it. If you're comfortable with it, send your information to us, along with really your marketing material, I guess we could call it, your advertisement on the chest of your shirt. And it doesn't have to be shirts from, recent things. Maybe you had a special event, Kids Fest or a vacational Bible study or something a few years ago, and you have a leftover shirt or whatever. That's fine. Just have your name on it. Provide us with a letter or something that explains who you are, what kind of church you are, so that we know. Because we're not going to support a JW. We're not going to support a Mormon church. We're not going to support a mosque. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to support a Hindu temple, or a satanic church. But whether you're a Pentecostal, Charismatic, Baptist, Methodist, Anglican, whatever, even if you're a Presbyterian, I'm just kidding. As long as you hold to the basic tenets of our faith without deviation from the core elements that define someone as a member of the family of God. We want to support you and lead people to places where they can find other people that love the Lord, wherever they are. Whether they're visiting, like you said in one episode, or they live there and they just don't know, they've never heard. And maybe they're in rural Alabama where there's a church on every corner and they just don't know which one they should try going to or whatever. Guess what? Maybe they'll see this, maybe they'll see your name, get your information, and come and visit you, and maybe you can lead them to Christ. That's our goal. Enough of that.
Amen.
I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
Shall we continue? Verse
Yes, please.
10.
Yes.
Now Ephraim dwelt among the sons of Heth, and Ephraim the Hittite answered Abraham in the presence of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of his city, saying, so apparently they've gotten these guys together.
Yeah. I mean, the appearance is that he was already there.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field and the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I give it to you. Bury your dead.
So, right here, he says, he's a Hittite, but he says, amongst the son of my people. So he's saying, yes, I'm a foreigner, but I'm one of you too. Like, he's like, he's saying, I accept your authority. He's humbling himself in a sense, like, yes, I'm an outsider, but I live here. I'm part of you. I walk in unison with you. And he's playing the dance too.
Uh-huh.
He knows he's in a delicate situation too. So he's like, oh, Abraham, you crafty little booger. But okay. Very well.
So, and manipulating the thing by saying, I give it to you.
Yeah.
You know, knowing that Abraham's not going to just take it.
Yeah.
But this is a buildup of...
Take it. No, I got to pay for it.
I have a little problem with this. Then Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land. Okay, and we just got done talking about bowing down. Now this says he bowed himself down. Mm-hmm. Where previously he said he bowed himself to the people of the land.
Yeah.
Now there's a big difference between bowing and bowing down.
Yeah.
And as I said before, the practice may not have been back then what the practice would be now. So as far as, you know, how the leaders are saying, you know, nobody bows themselves before, no Jewish person bows himself down before anybody except God. Hmm. And in the same sense, I think that bowing down in a reverential holiness before God is different between bowing down before somebody out of just respect of their authority. But I'm not Jewish, and you know.
Well, in a regional culture where kingship is descended from heaven, mm-hmm. the king, the chief, is a representative of the divinity, the divine.
Like David, King David. People bowed themselves down before him.
Because his kingship was from heaven, that's for sure. But furthermore, amongst the pagans, and I don't know that this was the case exactly in this location, mm-hmm. because it doesn't speak of a king being there. It's just the elders of the community. But where the king is like in Egypt, like in Babylon, like in Damascus, where the king is God on earth, bowing down, even in a reverential way, is a sign of worship. It's an act of worship. So that's why it's such a big hiccup for Jewish commentators. Like, the way Judaism understands the commandment to not make idols or not to have any other gods before the Lord is that, and there's actually a separate commandment for it, to not inquire, not to learn even the ways in which they worship their gods. Because you're not going to worship God in the same manner that they worship their gods. So that bowing down is kind of in that realm. It's a way that they worship, which is interesting because ancient Jews actually worshipped by prostrating themselves. There we go.
Yes.
Nobody's tickling nobody's prostate. It's prostrate, meaning, laying either flat down or, kneeling and bending down. But so that's kind of like what's going on there. But either way, or like when Naaman comes to Elijah and asks for his healing, and after God heals him miraculously, he says, well, would it be okay? May the Lord forgive me when I go back and I have to serve my king. And he goes into the temple of Dagon and, kneels, and I have to kneel beside him so I can support him and help him up. I'm not worshiping Dagon. God knows that, right? And Elijah says, go in peace. It's all good, whatever. But the idea is, like, you're not worshiping him, but you can't even give the impression that you're worshiping him. So Abraham bowing down could be construed or misconstrued to be worship. And so there's that problem.
What is the purpose of the bowing?
Yeah.
It's like beforehand when when angels appeared, when the angel appeared before John, and John fell down before him, but no, don't bow down to me.
Yeah.
Because he was doing it in a reverential style. And the angel's like, no, don't do that, because I am nobody above you. But if I'm not mistaken, when Abraham bowed himself down before the three so-called angels, the two angels and Jesus, he was not deterred from doing that.
No, because
God
he was
bowed
there.
down. Yes. So
Exactly.
I think the purpose behind it and the meaning of why it's being done, I think Abraham knew that he was doing it just out of a respect, not as a reverential, that you're a higher being.
Well, yeah, Abraham definitely was not worshiping anybody other than the Lord. And they would have known that. And there's times where you bow down before rulers.
Or you get your head cut off.
Yeah, and you don't ever, I don't know how it was in Europe, but in the Ottoman Empire, you come before the Sultan, your business is over, you're going to leave, you will not turn your back to the sovereign. You will bow yourself down and slowly back out. Yeah, I mean, so there's places where we do that, but why do they do that to the Sultan or the king? It's because the king is viewed as a representative of God, if not God himself. And that's the rub, which you're picking up on too, especially in this verse. Bowing down, that's a little much, but...
Okay, verse 13. This is after Abraham bowed down, and he spoke to Ephraim in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, if you will give it, please hear me. I will give you money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephraim answered Abraham, saying to him, My Lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephraim, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephraim, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants.
And there we have the completion of the transaction. But again, till the very end, it's very ceremonial. It's a dance. Like, if so, then let it be. Take it. Let me pay for it. How much you want? What's $400? What's $400 between friends? What's 400 pieces of silver between friends? Nothing. All right, here's 400. Thank you very much.
And so you mentioned this when we were talking off camera. The price of this land and how much it, 400 pieces of silver compared to the price of a bride being 50 pieces of silver. And I was saying, well, you're going to use this cave forever. Your family will use this cave forever and ever. So that's, throughout the generations. It's not like a one-time thing like a bride, not making them any less valuable, but your bride is with you for life, and that's it. But the land that you're buying is with generations.
Yeah.
Many. But you were, if I could remember what you said, but you might remember what you had said about that difference.
Yeah, it's it's at the edge of his field, it says, right? And that's going to be, I guess, one of the key things, right? Because the assumption is Ephron's an alien. He's probably the first generation. That's why Abraham's singling him out versus anybody else that might be a resident alien there. So that he might have known that specific cave, the cave of Machpelah, was empty. It hadn't been used for burial before. It's pristine. That adds some value to it, right? Because if it was used, can't really use it again. Like, that would be highly disrespectful and would cause some trouble again.
Mm-hmm.
But and I can't remember, and I didn't have a chance to look it up. What David paid for the what would
Temple
later
Mount.
what would become the Temple Mount, because that was a threshing floor and it was surrounded by because he bought the whole land where the wheat or whatever was grown, wheat and barley and whatever. So there's fertile land plus a facility where, loosely using the word facility, where he can process the wheat and stuff. One would expect that to be just like now, right? Real estate is what? Location, location, location,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I'm buying a piece of land for its productive power, I'm going to pay a lot more for that. But if I'm buying it just as a burial site, no productive value to it, then why am I paying so much? Because 400 pieces of silver is a lot of money. Again, one could say, well, especially then, land was expensive because land is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's making more of it even now. And today, people buy and sell land speculatively. Back then, not so much. So it was a final investment. So I guess one would expect it to be more expensive. But like you said, when a person's bride price is 20 to 50 shekels, 400 for a piece of land that's not going to produce anything for you, just struck me as very expensive. So it's kind of like Ephron saying, "All right, well, I didn't really want to sell this place. It is a nice cave that I prepared for myself and my family when I die, when they pass away. And you put me in this awkward spot where I can't really refuse, because if I do, then I'm going to have problems with the townsfolk. And and you are clearly able to pay this price."
That was another thing. He knew Abraham had the money,
You know,
probably pocket change.
you have me by the family jewels. Well, I also have you by the family jewels. So how about we unclench our fists and make this thing happen? You got to pay.
Okay. Let us finish out this. Verse 17. So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place. That word Machpelah, is that?
Machpelah?
Okay.
Yeah.
It was killing me.
They're tongue twisters. But you know what I noticed? In verse 17, the very first sentence, second half of it, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave. So he got the field with it. So that also helps explain why it was so much. So it's not exactly completely a ripoff.
Okay.
Plus, it has timber, and if we know anything about this geography, especially at this time, timber is hard to come by. You usually have to import it, which makes it a lot more expensive too. So, he actually gave Abraham a pretty decent deal. It wasn't too much, but still, I still think he paid probably more than it was fully worth, but still, it's not entirely a ripoff.
Well, supply and demand.
Supply and demand. That's why capitalism is the best. It's the oldest, and if something ain't broke, don't fix it. Yes, I will take every chance I can get to dig at Karl Marx and communism. Because forget that stuff.
That wraps up 23.
That wraps up 23.
Now we're really going to start going into the particular family here.
Yeah.
Going to find Isaac a buddyette.
A buddyette. A Smurfette.
Yeah. That's on Smurfs. But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because still marrying cousins.
Still marrying cousins.
Anyway.
It's interesting. Like, we look down upon it, but it's still technically legal to marry your first cousin in most countries, including the U.S. Which is, for us, it's weird because we know the dangers of interbreeding. The monarchs of Europe have taught us well about that, but especially the Habsburgs. But
well, even the Egyptians marrying their own brother and sister.
Oy vey. That's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah.
But thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you next time. This is, like I said, episode 20. Actually, I don't think I said anything. This is 28.
28, yeah. You said
Yeah.
27 last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're recording 2 episodes today. This is our second episode today. So 26. This is 27, 28. If you like what you see, catch up on the rest. Catch up to us on this journey and let us know what you think.
Please do.
Until next time, God bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you and give you peace. All that good stuff. Take care.
See ya.